Ready when you're ready, boss.
Hey, everybody. We back again.
We're back.
I'm Spencer. And of course, we have our licensed clinical therapist, Naz.
Hello, Dr. Naz, Dr. Nazir.
No one calls him that. All right. So this is a Different Spectrums podcast where we talk about movies, shows, and the mental health aspects that surround them. We also like to have some laughs, so don't take us too seriously.
Or do. It's up to you.
There you go. Also, don't forget to run up those likes for us. We'd really appreciate it. Tongue tie there. Also, don't forget to check out Bubs Naturals, our sponsor for the show.
Yes.
Use our discount code DSP20 to get a discount off of your entire order. Yes, it's right there. Bubs.
Yep.
Go to bubsnaturals.com.
There it is.
We'll also have a link. I think we should probably put in the link tree. That'd probably be smart for us.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah. The Cure sent out an email. They're like, yeah, you should put this in your link tree. I was like, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. So we'll be having another sponsor soon, but we'll talk about that later.
Yep.
So today we have our special guest, Dr. Diana. Welcome. Welcome to
Thank you.
Hello.
All right. Quick and to the point. All right. And here we go. So for today, we're talking about Encanto. Encanto. We're going to be taking a look at 3 scenes. One where Mirabelle was talking to some kids. Right. Second scene. Second scene. Mirabelle's getting yelled at by her grandma. Yep, getting yelled at. And then third scene, her grandma kind of tells a story of her trauma and why she's so angry. Why are you so angry, Grandma? So we're going to be looking at trauma, especially intergenerational trauma. And we're also going to be talking about gifts and if we have them or not. It's a question we'll be asking. But yeah, so before we get into it, Naz, anything?
Yeah, that's it. I will put the stuff in the link tree so folks can get the code and go right to the merchandise there. You get the 20% off on any of the supplements. They've got coffee, all types of things. Spencer's going to do a commercial right after this for it.
Yes.
But yeah, the link tree. Also, I've seen people are clicking on it. There, of course, there's the worksheets to help you with anxiety, depression, OCD, all those different things, relationships, and there's the free assessments, and then all the mental health apps. So go ahead and check those out. I'll put more stuff and link more cool things in there as time goes on, as I see more people coming in. But let's get into this. Let's have a good discussion about this movie, which is all about just family trauma and family damage. And then Dr. Diane will help bring some of these things to light because this was her request. So let's get it done. Let's get into the scenes. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Hey, everyone. Before we get into the show, please check out our collaborator, Bubs Naturals. They sell a variety of health and wellness products, including collagen peptides, MCT oil powder, coffee, apple cider vinegar gummies, and other amazing products. Go to bubsnaturals.com and use our code DSP20 to get 20% off your entire order. I just ordered their apple cider and vinegar gummies, and I'm excited to try them. If you are looking for a high-quality, all-natural health and wellness product, Bubs Naturals is a great option. The company offers a wide variety of items that are designed to improve overall health and well-being. So go check them out, and remember to use our code DSP20 when you check out. And with that, let's get into the show.
What are you doing?
They were just asking about the family and...
She was about to tell us about her super awesome gift!
Oh, Mirabel didn't get one.
You didn't get a gift?
Mirabel! Delivery! I gave you the special since you're the only Madrigal kid with no gift. I call it the not special since, you have no gift.
Thanks.
Oh, and tell Antonio good luck. Last gift ceremony was a bummer. Last one being yours, that did not work.
If I was you, I'll be really sad.
Well, my little friend, I am not. Because the truth is, gift or no gift, I am just as special as the rest of my family.
Who wants more cake?
All right, guys, where do I drop the wagon? dragon.
Maybe your gift is being in denial.
We're gonna save the miracle. The magic.
What are you talking about? Look at our home. Look at your sister.
Please, just... Isabella wasn't happy, and
Of course she isn't happy. You ruined her proposal.
No, she needed me to ruin her proposal, and then we did all this, and the candle burned brighter, and the cracks.
Mirabel.
That's why I'm in the vision. I'm saving the miracle.
You have to stop, Mirabel. The crack started with you. Bruno left because of you. Luisa's losing her powers. Isabella's out of control because of you. I don't know why you weren't given a gift, but it is not an excuse for you to hurt this family.
I will never be good enough for you. Will I? No matter how hard I try. No matter how hard any of us tries, Luisa will never be strong enough. Isabella won't be perfect enough. Bruno left our family because you only saw the worst in him.
Bruno didn't care about this family.
He loves this family. I love this family. We all love this family. You're the one that doesn't care. You're the one breaking our home.
Don't you
The
ever...
miracle is dying because of you.
I thought we would have a different life. I thought I would be a different woman.
Dos oruguitas enamoradas pasan sus noches y madrugadas llenas de hambre. Siguen andando y navegando un mundo que cambia y sigue cambiando. Navegando un mundo que cambia y sigue cambiando. Dos oruguitas paran el viento mientras se abrazan con sentimiento. Siguen creciendo, no saben cuándo buscar algún rincón. El tiempo sigue cambiando, inseparables son, y el tiempo sigue cambiando. Ay, oruguitas, no se aguanten más, hay que crecer, aparte y volver. Hacia adelante seguirás, vienen milagros, vienen crisálidas. Hay que partir y construir su propio futuro. Ay, oruguitas, no se aguanten más. Hay que crecer, aparte y volver. Hacia adelante seguirás, vienen milagros, vienen crisálidas. Hay que partir y construir su propio futuro. Dos oruguitas desorientadas en dos capullos bien abrigadas.
I was given a miracle. A second chance. And I was so afraid to lose it that I lost sight of who our miracle was for. And I I am so sorry. You never hurt our family, Mirabel. We are broken. Because of me.
All right, and we're back again.
We're live, like spaghetti. Yep, I said it.
Moving on.
Yep.
All right, so Dr. Diana, or is it Diane or Diana?
It's Diana.
Okay.
Good.
Dr. Diana, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I
Who are you?
appreciate the both of you letting me, let me join you in the podcast today. I am a social worker. Naz and I just graduated through the same program through the University of Kentucky, the Doctorate of Social Work program. I am licensed in Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. I live in and around the Cincinnati area, which is, located right in those areas. And I am not a therapist. Don't really want to be one, but yet at the same time, I use a lot of the same skills, have had a lot of the same basic training, and that's because I work with older adults, primarily in palliative hospice care, end-of-life settings. So I feel like it's using a lot of the same skills, but with a different focus. Right now, I am working for a community-based practice. It's basically a mobile physician practice. I work as the social worker on an interdisciplinary care team.
Okay.
And really address the social determinants of health, which certainly can include mental health, the impacts of trauma. I asked to I volunteered to be part of this for Encanto. Well, first of all, it's one of my favorite movies. I just absolutely love this movie. I watch it all the time with my family, watched it by myself. But also, I really am just interested professionally in being trauma informed. And it is part of my role as the social worker on an interdisciplinary care team to often educate about being trauma informed and how, a person could have gone through a trauma, whether you realize it or not. That's not necessarily something you see when you look at somebody. And that can include intergenerational trauma. Sometimes people can't even articulate that what they are struggling with is intergenerational trauma, and how that might present itself in a healthcare setting. Sometimes people with mental health diagnoses are often labeled as non-compliant or
Yep.
Hold on, I'm getting like a thing.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry, I was just getting a pop-up. Sorry. Anyway, a person can be in a healthcare setting, in a primary care practice, can be labeled as non-compliant. I feel like that is a very judgmental term. And really, it is part of my role to educate physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, dietitians about, the impacts of trauma and how it can present itself and manifest itself in a healthcare setting. So that's why I'm interested in this movie, because I feel like this movie displays that very well in a way that people can understand.
Yep. I think one of the big things there is for families of color, right, they're not taking that into consideration a lot of the time. It's not a thing. They'll be seen as non-compliant quicker and kicked out of that system, or disciplined, more punitive action than that care and empathy that we might show our white counterparts. So I think I like that Encanto is going to show that as well. So trauma-informed care, it's in everything. Anxiety, depression, health outcomes, like you said, economics, like it's involved in so many different things. Okay. So thank you for introducing yourself. Hopefully the fans will enjoy listening.
I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Naz, why don't you tell us about your first scene that we watched?
Yeah. So we looked at the movie. I picked some scenes. This one was just funny. I'm not gonna lie, it was just funny. Bunch of kids are like, "You don't have a gift?" I'd be like, "Man, shut up, Timmy." Just laughing.
Yep, that's right.
They're not special.
Yeah.
We beat children on this podcast. So
yeah, you 2 foot tall.
Yeah.
You ain't even got no dad. Shut up. Jesus Christ. So Diana, if you didn't know, I should have prepared you. I'm not the most appropriate at times, so you will see that.
I kind of picked up on the fact that there is sometimes some colorful language used in this podcast from what I've seen from other iterations.
Oh, you should have seen the first episode. That was
Oh yeah, the first iterations, we had to pull them down because they were bad. So yeah, we're not hitting kids out here. But I just
fatherless Timmy, leave.
Oh.
Talk about generational
trauma. Yeah, there it is. You see Maribel super embarrassed. She's doing this song and dance. She's doing all this stuff, right? And she just kind of just pukes right there. She freezes right there. This dude brings some gifts. Also kind of passively aggressive teases her. I wouldn't even say passive aggressively. I would say microaggression. Incidental, subconscious, like microaggression. Subtle microaggression. And then the kid teases her some more, which is more blatant. But everyone teases her a shit ton during the family. So she's continuously just like, why don't you have a gift? Why don't you have a gift? That's scene one. It'll make more sense as we get through the discussion on the gifts. Scene two is Maribel's talking to her grandmother. Her grandmother comes out steaming. She's hot. She's mad because they were singing and dancing, the sister upstairs, and like they fell down and like there's flowers everywhere and everything's not perfect. Grandma freaks out. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're not supposed to be acting like this. And she's like, you're the reason why all this is messed up. You know, you should be ashamed of yourself and how you're presenting yourself. You don't even have a gift. Like, you're the curse. Maribel freaks out. No, you're the curse. You're what's wrong. You're causing so much stress and pressure that none of us can even breathe. You have a sister that's extremely strong, that's feeling the pressure. Like, if I am not strong, then I am worthless. What am I? And she sings the song Tick, Tick. I think it's just Tick, Tick, Boom or just Tick, Tick, Tick.
Pressure that goes tick, tick, tick. That can
tick,
never
tick,
stop.
tick. Yeah, and it's intense because she's just talking about her wanting to like blow up inside. Or it's going to blow up when she doesn't have anything to offer. So whole thing, the whole family's whole thing is production, outcomes. One could say in America, capitalism. If you don't produce, you are worthless.
America.
If you are disabled, injured, old, sick, neurodivergent, then we don't have value because you're not producing to the economy. Someone sent me an Instagram reel about this the other day, and I was like, Jesus Christ, it's terrible. It was about a dude that his wife and his son died. And so he had to go to a psychiatric unit for 7 months because he just lost his mind. I mean, anyone would. And then when he came back, obviously he lost his house, his car, his job. Like, he lost everything. So he was homeless. Then finally gets a job after a year. And then that job goes belly up. So then he's homeless again. And they said the world's not made to help people like us that are struggling. Super sad. Talk about trauma. And then the third scene. Because, like, you hate grandma. You're watching this show and you're like, no, I'm not cool with Abuelita. I'm not cool with her. I don't want to mess with her. She is the toxic grandma that's like throwing the shoe at you or like being angry at you or pinching you in church and being like, stop acting like a little shithead. That might just be me.
No, that definitely didn't happen in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Can't feel that at all.
I know. Yeah. I was thinking about Grandma Guerra. These are Colombian folks, Colombian people on here. But I was thinking about Grandma Guerra, who was Mexican, and she was a trooper. Everyone was terrified of her. She loved my dad and treated my dad very well. Everyone else, though, she would like try to kill pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah, she owned her own supermarket, right? Little supermarket liquor store thing with my grandpa. They were immigrants from Mexico. Raised 9 kids in a single house, were migrant farmers.
Nice.
Yeah, so they had a nice comeuppance in life. But this reminds me of grandma so much. Because all those kids were under a shit ton of pressure. And it was ruled with like an iron fist. And so some people may see someone like my grandma Garen and dislike her. They would see her as the villain in many of these cases. but yet she is technically like the heart and soul that gets the family moving and going. So the grandma here, she goes through her trauma story. And it's a song, so it's going to be in Spanish. Everyone's going to see that it's in Spanish. It's a song. So those of you that don't get to hear it or don't get to see it, you're going to want to go back and you can see it on our Instagram reels. But it goes to her story of being happy, madly in love with her husband. She has triplets. She's pregnant with triplets. And then it looks like they're invaded. I'm not sure who they're invaded by. But their houses are burned down. He stands up to them to help her get away, and he dies. The Maribel is like walking through that vision with her as like a therapist would, and then she's destroyed seeing what happened. Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that, but technically the way Maribel experienced that trauma story is as if a therapist would experience it. Mm-hmm. So those are the descriptions of the 3 scenes for those of you that did not get to see it on the podcast side. And now we're going to kick it off with questions time. Wow. We're going to get into it. Chop it up.
Yes, these questions were sent in by our lovely fans. We'll go with it. We'll say it's yeah. ChatGPT didn't make these.
I should have asked it.
You should have. So, first question for both of you. What is intergenerational trauma and how is it presented in the movie?
Well, I can get us started on that. So to really, I think, to describe what intergenerational trauma is, which is a term we've just kind of, hoard around here so far. So it's first I think important to describe what trauma is. And that is I hate to describe it as some traumatic event, but some kind of an event that happens in somebody's life, a negative event. Could be, it sounds like it seems like in this scene that it was some kind of a war or some kind of civil conflict or something. Yeah. I don't know if there's a historical basis on that or not. Sometimes it's something like that. Sometimes it's, sexual abuse. Sometimes it's a car accident. Sometimes, and again, coming from a healthcare perspective, sometimes the diagnosis of a chronic medical condition is a traumatic event, arguably. Yep. So, trauma isn't big or small or doesn't look a particular way, but it is something that impacts a person's life and ability to function. Now, I think it should be noted, not everybody who experiences a traumatic event goes through a trauma response. Some people can get through that and, kind of get through it just fine and don't really need any kind of mental health professional or medical attention or anything like that. But that's not always the case. Sometimes people go through a trauma response, and perhaps now you can help me describe that a little bit better clinically. But my understanding is those are kind of the behaviors, the things that happen with a person after they go through a traumatic event. And sometimes short term, it can be okay because that's what you have to do to survive, to get through. But long term, it causes stress. And these could be things like the depression, the anxiety. Sometimes people can turn to substance use and abuse.
Very often.
Other kinds of self-destructive behavior. So that's what trauma is. And so intergenerational trauma, which I think is a whole other layer of that, is, okay, a person goes through a traumatic event and goes through a trauma response and has children and raises those children. So that child is being brought up in kind of this trauma response environment. And perhaps the interactions are fueled with that depression or anxiety or anger. There's a lot of yelling, or maybe not. Maybe things are just completely cold and silent and there is no communication. Withdrawn. Yeah, thank you. And so therefore that child is brought up in that kind of environment, whatever that toxic environment, and then learns how to, that is how, they learn interpersonal interaction. And then sometimes on top of that, those that second generation who went through perhaps that peripheral trauma, or maybe it's secondary trauma, or really the intergenerational trauma, not necessarily firsthand experiencing perhaps what that parent did, but experience those impacts, then have children, and then it's just kind of this cycle that continues.
It's like a snowball effect.
So I hope that describes what intergenerational trauma is. And, Naz, please, if there's better terms to use clinically, please, interject.
I think that was well to describe it, because we haven't really talked about this topic before. We've talked about trauma and like alluded to intergenerational trauma, or passing it down, and how it can change personalities. This specifically, you see her interacting with her children. She's one way, looks very loving, vivacious, happy, excited about life, and then it morphs. She's sad, she's scared, as you said earlier when in the production meeting, is survival mode. And so when you're doing that, the survival mode, maybe the fun's not there anymore. So now maybe there is yelling, maybe there is perfection, maybe there is a constant fear that something's going to happen. So there's over preparation for those things. Like, she doesn't look like a happy individual in the movie, right? The grandma, she does not look healthy. Looks very strict, very mean, very stern, very stoic.
Very stern, yeah.
Very stern, very
and you could even see, like, in the scene where, like, the trauma happened, like, the miracle happened, the Encanto, and then, like, the mountains raised up, and they kind of raised around her. Like, kind of, I felt like it was, like, kind of this is the trauma surrounding her and shutting her off from everybody else.
Okay. Yep. And then you see it passed down to the kids, which were the 3 adults in the movie. And then you see it passed down to those grandkids, which are now dealing with it. And so it just keeps going. I think it's like that in most families, right? As the therapist, you're like breaking down some barriers, you're therapizing the kid, and you're like, oh, tell me about your parents. What do they do for jobs? What's your connection with your family? How do you talk? How do you communicate? Oh, well, my dad doesn't talk that much, or my dad's on substance abuse, or, I really don't know my mess with my mom because we're always mad at each other. And then, okay, how was their parents then? Then you start to see those dynamics and how they affected the parents. Well, like, my parents are better than my grandparents, so I'm kind of happy with that. There's the episode in Kim's Convenience, Spence, where I forgot the daughter's name, Janet, is talking to her ma, and the ma's known as like this mean witch, right? And she draws pictures of her, and she says, I don't like talking to you. And then she's like, but I'm better than my ma. She's like, not that much. She's like maybe 20% better. And then they're fixing the bedroom, and she's like, here, put these nice clothes on, otherwise you never get married because no one wants you. And she looks at her mom like, how dare you say that? And she's like, what? That's 20%, nicer than what my mom would have done.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding when I say this. My mother would always say, you have it so easy, Nazir. And I'm like, this is easy? She's like, you have it so easy. You have no idea. She would say it all the time. And she would be so angry at me when I did not follow instructions or did not do these over demanding things, which none of these other kids are doing. None of these other kids are doing all this hard work and yard work, and in some cases slave labor. Which that's how I became friends with Colin. I needed someone to help me out with the work.
Come here, white boy. Help me.
we were just talking about it today with Colin. Yeah, we were like, man, we used to work so hard with my mom. He's like, yep. Yeah. Colin would literally work for some tamales and rice.
You know what? One thing you can say about Colin is that he will put in the work for nothing. For nothing.
He will do it. I remember one time there was this pre-workout I drank. It was by BSN. It's called NO Explode. I drank it, immediately puked everywhere. Colin drank it, took it like a champ, lifted these boulders and like set them in different places. He tried to drink that same pre-workout like a few days later, hurled everywhere. No idea how he took it, but we needed him to move this boulder, and he did it. I'm not gonna lie, some of it, and a lot of this is like kind of traumatic. We had tons of fun.
Apparently, a lot of barfing.
It was barfing. Yeah, we also made a joke. I mean, I'm sure Con liked all the free liquor at the house too when we're like 16 years old, 17, 18.
Different story, different day.
Yeah, I wonder where we get it from. Intergenerational trauma is the thing that perseverates through a lot of families of color. And I would say a lot of families of lower economic status.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
It's just a thing. And I'll say this, then I'm going to kick it to Spence real quick. There's big T, little t. And I ain't talking about steroids, testosterone. I'm talking about...
For now.
Yeah, for now. I got some later. That's our next sponsor. Brought to you by PEDs of America.
Stick 'em.
Just rage out.
Just turn into a Hulk. It's fine.
Yeah. I feel like I would turn into the pig from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
What was his name? Like
Rocky? Is it Rocky?
I don't think it's Rocky.
Rocky and Bebop. Something in Bebop.
Yeah. Something. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. Sorry, Diana, just FYI, I know you've listened to the pod before, we go on side quests.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, little side quest. But when we talk
surprising.
About it's a thing. Big T, like Diana said, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. And then you get into some of the smaller things like not having adequate food, not being able to pay rent, family members having, mental health issues. I already said like food insecurities. It could be, things like car accidents. It could be a lot of different smaller things. It could be like bullying. I would say bullying would still be little t, depending on what type it is. There's a lot of different little t's out there. The pressure and perfectionism, I would say that's also a T, depending on, right, that could be emotional abuse. So folks are like, I don't have trauma. Well, I'm not saying that you have the big traumas, but there might be some small things that fucked you up a little bit. A bunch of small cuts add up to a larger cut. If it's not cauterized and bandaged and stitched up, will continue to bleed out, and you will continue to have manifestations of bad shit throughout your life. Things will be a little awry. So don't get confused. Dan said there's big T, little t. Over a period of time.
And that's not to minimize any kind of trauma. Trauma is trauma. Just acknowledging it can manifest in so many different ways.
Correct. I just want people to be like, well, I don't have trauma. Well, we all got a little bit of trauma.
We all got a little trauma. Yeah. Or maybe your mom's got trauma.
So
and you didn't, and you're like, why am I so fucked up? Well, let's look at that a little further.
And like you said, why am I so messed up? So we'll describe this maybe after this. No, yeah, I'm going to do a little thing, then I'll toss suspense, like I said. If you have someone that's a helicopter parent, very OCD, very strict, or very anxious, and always checking, always asking you questions and going over things over and over and over and over, you're going to become a little bit more wired anxious. You're going to always be a little bit fearful and on edge. So those are my students that come to the university and are terrified all the time and asking me questions. Am I making the right choice? I don't know how to make choices on my own. I don't know what the hell to do. I'm always think that I'm wrong. It's because they haven't had the ability to be autonomous. Okay, so mom or dad projected that. Now the kid's super anxious. Well, the mom and dad got that anxiety from somewhere. Could it be genetic? Yes, but most likely it was from their training, childhood, from their parents. Intergenerational. And now if you got one kiddo that's anxious and the other kid's just chilling like Colin, he's one of the co-hosts on the pod. I'm going to go to side guest. One? The barfing one? Yes, the barfing one.
Okay, that's the barfer. Okay.
He's the strong one. I'll let him know later he was called the barfing one.
Okay.
Yeah. He's usually known as white and bald, so that might be a step up.
Yeah.
And buff. Let's not be. He's not skinny. That's for damn sure.
Big boy.
Big boy.
Big boy. So if you imagine you got someone that's anxious, that's legit wired anxious, and you got someone like Colin, they could be judging themselves on why Colin's so chill because they're always wired anxious. Or if you got someone like me that was a turd growing up, I'm probably going to tease you and to make you more anxious and to bother you more and to tease you more and probably bully you more. And it's going to stew you and rile you up even more. And then one
is that a clinical term, being a turd growing up?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
it's my father said. You're a turd. Sometimes you're a shiny turd, but you're my turd. He never said
Words
that.
of wisdom from
he never
from Pops. I know he did. Or did he?
You're my turd.
Oh, how adorable.
How adorable. That's not trauma.
Here we go.
None of us are traumatized here, right?
Yeah, none of us. All of us have been through something.
Yeah, everybody has something.
And so the question is, so that person's anxious. I'm teasing that person. The question would be, why am I teasing that person? Why do I feel that need to? Is it ADHD? Is it depression? Is it anger because that kid's getting all the attention because they need more maintenance and more care and love and attention? So maybe it is. So what do? I wild out. Because to get attention, I have to be disruptive. So now you see all the intergenerational trauma, the trauma trickling down, how it messes up all the kids. So now if I'm a little shit and a little turd, right, I'm probably not going to be the best academically. I'm probably going to mess around, get in trouble, wrong crowd. So my outcomes might be worse than my siblings because they were anxious, more strict, regimented, because they was always fearful. They go on to bigger, better things, or a massive mental breakdown. And me, maybe creative and fun and vivacious, or a drug addict and dead in jail. Who knows which way this will crumble. Yeah. I'm just trying to show folks the map, the triage on how things can just go. Spencer. What scene? You can pick any of them. Which one did you take something out of, or which one did you oh, okay. Was it the first one where they're being funny? Second one when she's yelling at her ma, or the third one when the grandma's going through all the stuff? Look at here, look at this.
I mean, I think like everybody else, probably going to be the third one. You get more context, or you get at least most of a picture that's going on. Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be, especially when we talk about trauma, there's so many events that have happened, big events that have happened that traumatize generations of people in general. We take a look at slavery, the Holocaust, things like that, right? And so
9/11, all types of stuff.
9/11 too, yeah, right. And there's still lasting effects to this day. And so it's really tough to try and talk about how do you not only not get rid of it, but cope with it, right? And so it's a very tough conversation to have, because it's how can you just get over something that you have no control over, that's affecting you, right? And it's a very tough thing. And so when we talk about trauma, this isn't, we're not going to have answers to really give you. It's more about just trying to show you symptoms and what's going on really, and how maybe you are affected in your everyday life. Maybe. There are tons of people who have trauma that have a great life, that do lots of great things. And so this isn't just to say that if you have trauma, then you're messed up and you can't, you need help all the time. No, that's not for everybody.
True.
There are tons of people who have tons of trauma that do a lot of great things. Just watched documentary on Arnold Schwarzenegger. That dude brought himself out of nothing, and look at him, one of the biggest stars ever. And so I would just say that especially this episode, it's mainly about trying to really track what like we said, what trauma is, and then also kind of seeing if there are things that you need to do in order to really kind of take next steps in your life if you feel like you've hit really a roadblock. So
her next step was confronting her grandma and stopping the perseverating of this toxic life. Right? One person can change an entire family. And if you change an entire family, then they're going to go talk to their friends, and their friends will talk to people, and that's how it manifests. So if you change one world, you could change multiple worlds in a family dynamic. Before I forget, I want to bring something up, Spence. I just found out some horrific news. Not with my family or anything. You know the Pistons coach? We got a new coach, Monty Williams. Do you know that his wife died of cancer probably about like 6-10 years ago? He had a wife previously and she died of cancer, right?
Yeah.
When he was coaching New Orleans. It just came out. I don't know if you saw it. Just came out like an hour ago that his wife currently, he remarried after years and years, right? And so his current wife just got diagnosed with cancer.
Jesus.
And it's like, this guy can't catch a break.
No.
You know, Jesus. And I get it. It happens a lot. It's happening to people that are around us, near to us, people that are on this podcast. And it's just like, God, can you imagine the trauma that he's going through?
Being re-traumatized, perhaps.
So that's why I brought this up.
That experience with his first wife, who was, you know, so near and dear to him.
Can't even imagine it. So prayers for him and his family, because that just broke today, which is June 13th.
Wow.
Yeah, terrible. And so I was thinking about that, Spence, and like, you know, you have a wife that passes. It's gonna change the way you coach your players. It's gonna change the way you interact with people. Okay, so now that's changed who he is as a person, as a coach, as a father, as a man. And then now it happens again when he takes over a new team like ours, an up and coming team. I mean, who knows? At that point in time, right? It's like, I'm like, if he wants to say fuck basketball, use the language, maybe forget basketball. I don't know. It's going to change the way he acts with the team, which will then technically is a family unit. His trauma will thus affect the kids, aka the players, and it will affect the way on how they treat their family because they will see their coach suffering. It will perseverate through the generations, and I thought that was a good parallel to bring today. I technically didn't get really too sad about it until just like a minute ago because I was like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, it's like you have like the best job that you could ever get. Best job. No matter what team it is, you're on the highest level of sports. And then just something that happens again to you, to another loved one. It's like,
and you can't even lie to yourself saying like, oh, it's just going to be okay. It's always okay, right? Because his previous trigger and deep trauma was his wife passed. Intense. You know,
and you know, just relating it back to the scenes in the movie, talking about re-traumatization, the scene in the middle, that's the one where Mirabel confronts Abuela about, you know, the family and her behaviors and the house shatters. You know, that's what happens. And it was very parallel to like the walls closing in on her and then it shatters. And that in it itself, like it seems like it was traumatizing to the family, but also I think it should be noted, you know, that was the trigger, the catalyst of change, because, you know, Abuela, you know, Alma could have easily just, you know, shut down and, you know, withdrawn inward again like she did before, but instead she sought out Mirabel and found her at the river, the place of the trauma, and did things different. So, you know, in this podcast, we're really knocking Alma really bad. And, you know, I think it should be noted that, you know, Alma did a thing. Alma did a good thing in the end.
She did. And so I wanted to bring that up too. When you see her go after her, right? Go after her granddaughter. And I don't know how often that would happen. I think for a lot of families, after you check them and confront them, you know, they're going to be pissed off and mad. They're going to take time, especially if it's like an elderly person or not just elderly, but like parent, grandparent, right? You check them. I'm just thinking if I check them, like, I'm not going to lie, you getting hit. So, so I'm just going to be clear, you getting hit. And then, so, but here, right, she runs, the house breaks, she goes to the pond, to the right, and there's the river, and she comes there. And she consoles her. She apologizes. So technically that scene is what would happen in a normal family unit over maybe weeks or months' time.
Right.
You got that parent, sibling, partner, your romantic partner. They have to do the introspection and the work. Unless they're really quick with it and they immediately know that they fucked up because they've already done the work before. But that scene technically would be expanded over months, years.
it is a movie after all. It has to wrap up in 2 hours with its happily ever after. Sometimes it never happens. Again, I work with older adults at the end of life. There is oftentimes so much unresolved grief and trauma, and people die. People die without it being resolved, and that could be traumatic too.
Mm-hmm. I remember my mother said something very, 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 very sketchy on her deathbed, and I'm like, for real? That's what you decided to say? I'm not going to put her out there and say what she said, but I'm like, this is why I didn't contact you. This is why we don't talk, because you decided to push past every boundary that there was, and that's what I teach my clients now. If people don't treat you with respect, dignity, with honesty, then they're the ones that choose to be in your life or not. It's not you choosing. It's not you pushing them away. And I'm working with clients currently that their parents are horrific, mean, violent, abusive, manipulating to take money from them. These are poor college students, and they're taking money from their kids. And it's like, what are you doing? And so I help some of my students break away from that, because you shouldn't be paying for these things. These are independent people, right? They should be making their own cash. If you want to supplement and subsidize some things, but they have to be doing something. They sure as hell can't be treating you like crap, because we got to get this degree, this master's, PhD, this bachelor's. And students will quite often come to my office like, I'm a terrible person for not loving my parents more, for not bending over backwards and just doing everything that they wanted. I'm like, yeah, homie, you keep doing that, you're going to have no money, you're going to be completely depressed and probably suicidal. So, and some of my kids will set boundaries, Diana, and the parents will eventually accept it over a couple weeks, maybe a month. Maybe they'll come out as queer, gay, trans, whatever it is, and eventually they come around, like the matriarch of the family here. But good majority of them never happens. Never happens. I got a kiddo that just looks at me. They're not crying as much now, and she just goes, she just can't love me. I said, your ma doesn't have the skills. It's got nothing to do with you, kid. Your ma just doesn't have the ability to do it. To treat you the way you want to be treated. She needs her own therapist, but she's probably not going to do it. She doesn't have the money to do it. The question is you working on your stuff now will make you a better person. That way, when you decide to have kids, you're not going to mess it up. You're not going to do the same things that your mother did to you. You're breaking the cycle of that intergenerational trauma. So shout yes to the grandma here. I just want to be clear that it might not happen, and also could take a while. Even sometimes when I check my dad on things, he'll come around and be like, all right, yeah, so maybe you're right. And then when he checks me on things, it'll take me a second to come around. I'll be like, yeah, you're right. You were right. As we get older, it's harder to say sorry. I think we think that we know everything. It just gets harder. Spence, what were some of the other questions on there?
So, next question coming from Robert D. Weird. How is pressure or perfection shown in the film? And which of them feel it? Or do all of them? Robert D.
Diana, you can go ahead and take that one.
So how is pressure or perfection shown in the film? Well, I think the obvious examples, I mean, we didn't see it in the scenes today, but the granddaughters, Isabella and Louisa being the strong one, the anxious one, Isabella being, the perfect one. Now, she's not really perfect. Nobody is. But, this idea that is projected on her that this is the way you have to be. And, I think that is a result of that intergenerational trauma and the Encanto and this event that, as a family they experienced.
And Louisa, she's the one with the flowers, correct? That can just grow foliage everywhere?
Isabella is the one with the flowers.
Isabella,
she's the perfect one.
Perfect one.
Mm-hmm. And then Louisa is the strong one that can lift the mountains and has the twitching eye that that the girl that can hear it all the time.
I'm glad that you brought that up. She has the twitchy eye, very jittery, constant negative thoughts in her head all the time. Then the perfect one, you think she's cool as a cucumber, she's good, she's happy, she's peaceful, probably going to get married. That's something, right? Probably trauma-wise. Is you're going to marry this person, you're going to do this because it's going to make the family happy. But in actuality, that's not what she wanted. But she didn't feel like she had the right to disappoint or disrespect the family. So the trauma forces her to concede. Yeah, forced her to concede. The one that can hear everything, that feels like a trauma response.
I never thought of that. I never thought of what is her name? Dolores.
Oh yeah, Dolores.
Dolores is the one that can hear everything.
I just thought of it now. Like,
I can hear this, of course, a mile away.
she, if you're a person that's very anxious, very scared, and always on guard because danger's always lurking, then you're probably going to be very sensitive to sound. So that seems like a gift that's very beneficial, but specifically for someone that's been through more trauma. The strong one, she could be strong because she has to be strong. I was always happy to be a big person, a large person, because it protected me. That way I could always defend myself or others.
Also not a woman, though. Like,
yeah.
A lot of women who are bigger are shamed upon, so.
True. And I also thought about how life could be better if I was smaller. And I thought about how I was better. I think about these things. If I was a little dude, how life would have been. Definitely glad I was a dude. Make life a lot easier.
Little Nas be hilarious.
Little thin Nas. Yeah.
Sounds like
I was a big head, though.
I probably would have been so much quieter.
Would you?
I probably couldn't get away with the things that I say
like
unless I would have to
be talking shit, but you'd be like backing up a little bit more, you know?
There we go.
Yeah.
Backing away from the teeth. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you ain't shit,
a shit stirrer, but from the shadows.
From the shadows.
Shit stirrer from the shadows. That's your new handle.
There you go. Put it on a t-shirt.
Put it on a shirt, underdog. Oh, shit stir from the shadows. I like that.
That'll be your D&D.
There you go.
Yep. Gamer tag. Jesus Christ. All I can think of right now is Renfield from the shadows. Sucking people's life force. Okay. Perfectionism. Definitely shown in the movie. I think even her children show versions of perfectionism as well. I didn't put it on there.
Bruno, he ran away because he didn't feel like he met up to that idea of perfection. Well, he did. Turns out he didn't really run away. He was just in the walls, playing with rats and putting a bucket on his head. but still, he ran away.
I wanted to watch Spencer's face as you said that because it's so wild. Like he runs away for like 5 years or something. He lives inside the walls with rats.
It's 10 years.
Wow, there's nothing going on there.
Nothing.
Happens all the time.
But you're right. That he knew that everyone was going to hate him because he had a vision that was going to be terrible and toxic and that the house was going to break. And so he smashed it and ran away because everyone was going to judge him and say that he was bringing bad upon everyone. And so he runs because he doesn't like being the bad person, the bearer of bad news. He wants people to be happy, but he doesn't have these happy visions. And thus he is seen as a mistake, a flaw, error. So
and
he runs.
That's why we don't talk about Bruno.
Yep. And which was the one? It was the number one hit song, which is hilarious because I don't think it was as good as "Let It Go" from Frozen or catchy, but for some reason it was the number one song.
In a different demographic there.
True,
yeah.
Probably too. A lot of people enjoyed
Latin
that.
Countries really love some Latin music, so
yeah, they latched onto it.
They play that shit all the time. They're like, bro.
Yep. It's not as catchy. But Bruno's character, I'm gonna do this now. I didn't have this in the questions.
Okay.
You brought up him being possibly. You heard people on the internet, the interweb, saying that he was the neurodivergent one. And I thought that was interesting because I didn't peg him as the neurodivergent one. I pegged the other siblings, the family, the rest of the family as being neurodivergent. Or one could say they're all just having different trauma responses. So I rewatched it right, Dan, and I paid closer attention. I could see him being very... He's like my brother. He likes his peace and his solitude. So he escapes to his room. For him, he escapes to the wall. Oh, Jesus. He's very creative. Yes, it's so traumatic,
He's
bro.
just in the wall.
He's literally...
You just gotta... You just have to see it.
Bro.
He goes to the attic, and there's no attic in your house. There's only one floor.
It's wild. Like, he opens up like a pitch. There's like, he moves a pitcher and then he just slides into the wall. And then he's just
like
gone.
in the space between the walls.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of like those little cubby holes. It's technically, it's so fake. It would be old houses. What the fuck is that movie called? The TV show on Hulu, The Murderer. There's a murder in the building. The murder in the building?
No, only murderers in the building.
Correct. So there's those cubbies throughout the entire building.
Yeah.
That's technically where Bruno lives.
Fair enough.
So he loves animals. He loves the rats and playing with them, very talkative with them. That can be seen as a neurodivergent thing, being very close, very loving with animals. Creative. He can visualize and see things. He has that rats act out plays. He doesn't have a TV. The rats. Yeah, that's right. He has the rats act out a telenovela, which is a soap opera. He's like, ooh, this is the good one.
Yeah. Jesus.
Dude, it's so sad. Like, it is like the saddest fucking thing. But he's just happy as pigs and shit. And then he gets free. And then he's like, I'm just going to go back to the wall. So
remember when the house was being destroyed? We see him real quick. Like, I didn't notice this till my last watch, and I've seen this movie like a billion times. He like runs through the bucket on his head and like gets the rats, and then he charges through the wall with the bucket on his head.
I have no idea what it is with the bucket on his head, Spence. I just don't fucking guy. That's not a Spectrum thing. I don't know what that is.
Same.
It's just a Bruno thing.
The strong daughter. You see a lot of neurodivergent folks that are powerlifters, bodybuilders. It takes a lot of regimen, obsession, hyperfixation to become that strong. You can also see it in her anxiety and the twitchiness. One could see that as tics or Tourette's. It becomes more animated, more expressive when she gets overstimulated. The daughter, not granddaughter, daughter that has the storms. You could see that as someone that is constantly deregulating. Yeah. And that would be the neurodivergent person that's just always deregulating, overstimulated, panic attacks, tantrums, crying spells. They would probably label her as borderline personality disorder, but then someone like me would take in context, well, maybe they're neurodivergent and they're melting down and it's not actually a personality disorder. The daughter with the flowers, granddaughter, nature and foliage is very well loved and known in our population. So I see her as someone that's creating this beauty, this magnificent, this art. And a lot of my folks that are neurodivergent go into a lot of these biology, ecology, zoology classes, and they go to work at these gardens or they go to work in agriculture. So I thought that she was neurodivergent or she had tendencies. The grandkid that can turn into people, he's able to mirror and take on other people's personalities. That's the most neurodivergent thing someone can do. Except for his body shape shifts. So, I mean, I can't do that. I can put on a girdle. I mean,
it's metaphorical.
Yeah.
Big ass girdle. Jesus Christ.
Is that your gift?
Yeah, that's my gift. I got a girdle now.
Yeah. Triple XL girdle. Like, oh shit, I didn't even know they made those.
Yeah. There was that one movie. Did you kill a cheetah? Sorry. Yeah, it's because their underwear was made out of cheetah print. I'm very distracted right now. I'm done.
And land the plane.
Land the plane.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah, I know. You don't. And I think that covers most of them with the gifts. Of course, I think there's a few more in there, but you can see these different iterations of what it is to be neurodivergent other than the kid that's quote unquote disabled, non-functioning. There's these other gifts. such as Maribel. I think it should not go unforgotten that Diana said she was the social worker of the family.
Yeah.
And the glue and the love and the heart. I could also see that being a neurodivergent thing. I'm very much so the glue in the heart of many different things and places that I'm in. I'm the team person. I'm the one that makes sure that everyone eats. So all of these are characteristics of someone that could be neurodivergent on the spectrum. It also just be a family that's traumatized, because Maribel takes on that personality of fixing everything, taking care of everything, that making sure that people aren't deregulating. So it's a trauma thing, but also it could be a neurodivergent thing. I thought it'd be fun to talk about. I feel like folks that listen to this that are neurodivergent will have some fun re-looking at these characters now, and maybe identifying with some of them instead of the bad things you hear about autism. Spencer, before we get to the next question, we had a comment on the podcast because I put questions on there through Spotify, like they're automated, and I change them. And one person goes, on the auto one, I put, "How badly did you cry?" One person put, "I sobbed." And I was like, yes.
Yeah, you did.
And one person left a comment. They don't follow us, but they left a comment on one of the auto posts. And they said,
Assholes. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it was really good. She said, people don't talk about how neurodivergent he was and how many of the symptomologies that he shows is someone on the spectrum. I'm like, yes. And his best friend was, until he hated him for buying a Toyota.
All right. Well, let me tell you something real quick. If you leave a comment about something, follow us. It's that easy. Just do it.
How about if you like the content,
how about you stop messing around here? How about that? Let's not play games. Just follow us.
Quit playing games with my heart. Quit playing games with my heart.
My podcast.
Funny thing. Then we'll move on.
Uh-huh.
That's not even the weirdest thing. I'll look at people, they will like 50 posts, real talk, 10 posts, and then not follow. I will never understand that. Never. If you like 10 posts, you like the content, just follow. Please sidetrack.
Folks, just follow. That's all you got to do. Follow.
Just go ahead and hit that little button.
You actually did more work liking 10 posts than you did just following us and liking 10 posts.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Yeah. All right.
What we got next?
So this question comes from Danny D. Do we all have a gift? If so, how do you find it?
I wonder what you think, Dana. Do you think that everyone has a gift?
Definitely. I mean, I feel like it would be very unsocial worky to say otherwise.
But then what is the gift?
So wait, who are we talking about?
No, not it doesn't have to be a character. Yeah,
I mean, that's part of what we do as social workers. We find strengths in people. I think strength is another word for gift.
Okay. I agree.
If you can't, if social workers are good at one thing, it's identifying strengths, even if it's the littlest thing. I think in a more broader sense, those can be identified as gifts. I strongly believe that everybody has one. Now, I also believe not everybody knows how to identify themselves.
Very accurate. I think it's hard to see your own gifts.
Yeah.
Right. It's just hard to see. It's like when you're losing or gaining weight, you really don't notice until it's either too late. It's like the Drake album. If you read this, it's too late.
Yeah. Wow, that's like a 2010 callback.
Hey man, I just watched Lord of the Rings today, so right, I'm going old.
What does that mean?
I'm going old school today.
I was making fun of no, it was earlier because that's like a 20-year-old movie.
Yeah.
He's like, spoilers.
Yeah, he takes his time.
I take
his time on
things. I'm catching up. At least I'm not in the 60s like Saleem is watching like.
You know 60s what and 70s. Though. I will say, sometimes it's nice to go back and be like, hey, this was different. a lot more racial humor.
Yeah.
I remember I love the show MASH, but there's a character called Spear Chucker, and it's a black dude. And so you're like, I think he only had like 2 episodes, and then they're like, yeah, we can't do that. Can't do that no more.
Like this was just on TV, like at that time.
So it was. It was
and everybody accepted it.
His nickname was Spear Chucker. So
yeah, you didn't see much. You saw a lot of weird microaggressive racist stuff, and then nowadays you're starting to see some more diversity. I think it's really cool to finally get to Encanto because we're finally getting to some Latino, Latinx stuff, right? And then we're going to do Coco. There's not a lot of that out there. And we're a large percentage of the population. Very large.
Well, you're welcome.
Finally getting to it. The gift thing. I think you're completely right. I like how you said strengths. It is so hard to get people to identify any gifts or strengths. I'm like, I was talking to a human today. They're like, I'm the dumbest person in this entire school. And I'm like, even if you were, that's still pretty fucking smart because you're at one of the best schools in America.
Yeah, like, that's the way to look at strength.
I'm like, but you don't get it though. Like, I'm not competing against everyone in America. I'm competing people in this specific program. But you're the dumbest person in this program. Let's say that that's true. Like, you're still like one of the probably 2% of Americans that's going to get a PhD. You're like smart as shit. You're like, well, maybe. But I don't get things as quick as the others. Well, see, now I got you to not saying you're not completely stupid and worthless to you're not as quick as the others. We already made progress there.
Yeah.
Finding strengths is sometimes buried under a lot of shit and a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the strength is just getting through the trauma, through the depression, through the relationship. Sometimes it's just getting them to admit that they're happy and that it's okay to be happy. Someone said, I went to the gym. I said, good. And I felt good. Awesome. And I felt like attractive. Good. It's awesome. And I felt so happy and proud of myself that I cried. I said, that's awesome. But then I started crying even more because they said, I never feel this way. And I'm mad that I never feel this way. Good about myself or attractive. I said, yeah, that sucks. And you won't have that feeling as much as you continue to do these good things. But it was awesome to finally get them to be happy and proud and content because they thought it was bad and a sin to do those things. And you help people find, you always had the skills to identify these things. You just didn't know how to do it. And so we show you in therapy. Now it's your strength. Now you're off and running. Strengths, I think, and I'll be done. Strengths, I think, can be built. You might not just be born with this gift. Maribel was not born with a gift, but it was built over time.
Yeah.
Does that make it a gift, though? That's my question. Is because I don't think people have gifts. I really don't.
Go ahead.
I think that we have skill sets that we learn and that we really hone in on and really grow to be. And because I think once you say gift, it's like that's just something that's given to you. You don't just work on a gift, right? I just don't think you do. I don't think you work on gifts. I think it's very especially to those people who really put in the work and really make sure that they hone in on whatever craft they have.
Perfection.
I think that kind of is a detriment to them because you're just saying like, oh yeah, if you just have a gift, like you didn't have to work at it, you didn't have to put in any time at all into that. And that's the thing. And I don't think that, obviously when we talk about like this movie and things like that, they did get gifts, right? Like they have magical powers that can make them do all these different things, right? But when we talk about us in reality, it's more of, I think that we really have to build on what we have. It's, for example, right? You could, for sports analogy, you could always say Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan, greatest player of all time. Greatest player of all time. Talent. But he worked his ass off to get that talent. And he had people around him to really help him with that and make him want to be more competitive and drive him. And he was in a nice he was in a good situation with it, both of having both of his parents around and things like that. There are a lot of factors that go into what make people great. And so I think that once we talk about gifts, it's something that's just, it feels like somebody just gave to you and then you're like, oh, okay, I have this.
It takes away, I don't know what the word is. It sounds like from your perspective, it takes away not necessarily the autonomy, but like the earned.
It unvalidates what the work that, or
it invalidates.
Lessens.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
It minimizes the.
So the only way that I could see it, if I was to take, I almost called you Colin. If I was to take Spencer's perspective, then I would say, at the least, you have a predisposition. You have like a talent towards something. Like some folks are a little bit better at math or art or music or whatever, and then they build and build and build and build, and then now it looks like a gift, but technically it's like years of grinding.
Yeah, you're not just going to be born and then you know how to do math. It's just not how it is. You're just not.
Yeah, there'll be that talent, and then you build upon it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like an ember.
And that's the thing. And that's when we talk about, that's why when we talk about gifts, I don't think you can build a gift. You can build talent, I think. I think you can build talent. I think you can build even just, not even emotions, but just certain characteristics for yourself. Like you can be shy, but then you can grow into somebody who talks to everybody in the room. Takes a lot of work, but you can do it. And, you know, some people do have what they call a gift of gab, but I think for the most part, a lot of people really actually talk to people, and then they kind of build off that and keep on going from there, you know, and build something. It's like, Nas, do you think you have a gift? And what do you think your gift is?
So I was going to say that we're going to stick to speaking. Well, I would watch my father and my mother, especially my mother growing up, because father wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I would watch her talk and hustle and schmooze and sell and sell and sell. And so I would watch her, and then I would see my father, and I would watch him. And then I ended up getting these jobs where I had to articulate, and my mom would take me to these sales things, and I'd have to hand out pamphlets, and so my speech grew, my ability to hustle. And then in college, I started doing outreach programming and I had to go like bump into people to get them to fill out a survey. Who the hell wants to fill out a 20-minute survey? Well, I would lie and say it took 12 minutes. I would shave some time off. And then we would give them plants or like fruit or gifts and stuff like that. But it got me really used to just going up to people and saying shit. And so I built a skill set, but I don't know if I would have had that. I guess the gift would be growing up in the environment, but everything else was technically grown. Now I would say the heart that me and my brother have, I would say that I don't know if we actually worked for that. I feel like that was always kind of there, but technically my father nurtured it, because if my father wasn't in my life in 2001 when he was out of incarceration, then I would be very different than what I am now. The heart would have not been watered and fertilized. I would be very different. Very different. And so it depends. My gifts, I got many of them. I'm good at talking. I'm good at making people smile. I'm good at hustling. This is what I say in all my interviews, at all these interviews I do when I'm like big time interviews now. And I'm just being honest these days. And I say, I'm good at hustling. And I know I'm not supposed to say that word, but this is what therapy is. I'm hustling you into believing the good shit instead of all the bad things. Hustling you to find your strengths, as Diana said, and believing that this is something that you can build upon and actually have a happy life. To me, that's the hustle. If I was to say this in class, they'd be like, ooh, that's what we call cognitive therapy, Nazir.
Right, so after that interruptance, we are back.
Yeah. I was just talking. Diane's just there staring at me deeply, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm not actually here.
She was just frozen. You're like, wow, she just keeps on looking at me and then drops.
Well, like, she hasn't blinked in 3 minutes.
Yeah. This is weird. All right. Well, no judgment here.
Most eye contact in a year.
Not wrong.
Sorry. I don't know what to do with this. Colin's baby will literally not blink for like 5 minutes. It is the creepiest shit. I'm
just
done.
A fly goes on her eye and then just flies away. You good, baby? You good? Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So getting back into it. So kind of going off of do we all have a gift? Is being better than you were yesterday good enough?
My answer is yes. Diana, what you thinking?
No. Nice.
Say the question again.
Is being better than you were yesterday good enough?
How am I supposed to answer that? Like, well, yeah.
There you go.
I mean, that's the most marketing question I've ever heard in my life. Like, oh, being better than. I mean,
that was by Nazir Z.
Fuck you guys.
Sucky question.
I'm trying to find people. You've got a gift. You're always being competitive. You've got the pressure. You've got this intergenerational trauma.
Right.
We're just bunch of humans trying to be better than what we were the day before, and everyone's like, "No, I need to compete with them and this and that." I'm like, "Homie, as long as you're just doing better than what you were like earlier today, like that's what we're trying."
It's absolutely true. All joking aside, I mean, absolutely. Again, if you look at things from a strengths perspective, that's you just got to look at it like that.
Yep. Spence, I would assume you agree as well.
Nah,
that's just such a leading question. Like,
stay how you are today and never
change. The best you would ever do is just plateau.
Yeah, the best you'll ever do is full depression. So.
Yep. And that's as good as you're gonna get. So that's what you're gonna do.
That's all you get. Yeah. Yep. I think another reason why I threw that in there is that we circle back to intergenerational trauma and her story of the children is she changes. And I know it's a movie, but she gets confronted and it looks like she changes. The family starts to heal. And so you can sit in that shame and that grief and that trauma and that just negative concept of yourself after she gets confronted, or you can just start just to make amends and just start moving forward with your family. Because you might have blown it already. You've blown it for the last 30 years with your kids, and maybe you've spoiled some of your grandkids. By spoiled, I mean like they've gone rotten because of the anxiety and pressure of the trauma. But maybe you can help them build better lives, because I'm assuming they're like teenager-ish, 20-ish. One of them's super young, the grandkid. And then you can help them with their children. So the grandma still has time. She still has time to make amends. So that's where I was going with this is, if you find out that you fucked up, step one is to recognize it, then start to forgive yourself and just do better. Can't change the past, but you can make amends.
Absolutely.
And that's a trauma perspective, is having empathy for yourself, having empathy for others, because you don't know what they're going through, and just trying to move forward. Life is hard. I have a lot of humans that look at me and they're like, is it always going to be this sucky? I just kind of look and I'm like, yeah. They're like,
it gets easier with time.
I was like, yeah, it gets easier with time because you learn to accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slowly losing your mind, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just slowly
definitely
becoming
over this.
Like King George and the Queen Charlotte we just watched.
Oh
just
my
slowly losing your
God.
mind.
Jesus. Two worlds colliding.
Yeah. We have kids. Yes, we have kids.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Nice. Good job.
They have a lot of kids.
I know. A lot. So that's what
all you could do back then.
Yeah, I know, right? I actually forgot because in the pre-production meeting I said I didn't, because next we have coming up is Coco. We're doing that on Thursday, and that one is like extremely devastating. Spence, have you seen Coco?
I have seen Coco.
I forgot how bad it was. The grandma scenes and like the very end, it's just too much.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
It's just
no.
Yeah, it's just too much, man. The Remember Me, like he had to sing Remember Me to her. Jesus. But we're gonna have a good talk about music next time.
Yeah.
This one I said it did make me cry, and then we watched this last scene and I was like, huh?
Yeah.
No!
Both of you were like, ugh.
Spence? You felt some emotion? Spence is probably just checked out.
I was more just like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, get them. To the people on the horses.
Jesus Christ, Spencer.
Yeah, use those machetes.
They got them good.
Yeah. Slice and dice, baby. Slice and dice.
Oh my God. Someone order fajitas? Well, I'm glad I'm taking my.
Smell like fajitas.
Jesus, why does this taste like river water?
Jesus.
Oh, we lost Diana.
And gone.
Okay.
One
So
guess we will not be having back.
No, I think there's a lot of people, if they make it to this part of the podcast, who are like, "Oh my God."
It's just so insensitive.
Yeah,
damn right.
My parents died in a river machete fire.
That made me cry a little. That was good.
Oh, it's good. That's what I do. Oh, it's a nozzle. That's my gift.
Yeah,
there's your gift. Bringing laughter and shock and awe.
I was just going to say making people cry.
Well. Different reasons, different day.
I know. I remember teasing SideQuest. I remember I was an intern, 2014 at Aquinas University, and I go to one of the senior therapists. I said, "What do you do to clients back there?" She's like, "What do you mean? They just leave your office crying." It's like Jesus, you're terrible. Fast forward.
Can't do that.
Fast forward, like it happens. Fast forward 5 years, everyone's crying nonstop in my office, so it's a thing.
Yeah. You
but now you have joy out of it.
You gotta try to decompress.
Yeah. You gotta. Students are gonna cry. They're gonna do the thing. I just thought it was funny.
Mr.
I teased
Burns
her for
now.
How so?
You remember Mr. Burns from The Simpsons?
Yeah, I remember him. Does he make people cry?
Like, yeah, he loves evil stuff. Yeah. Everything is evil.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
When my client starts, I'm like, ooh, tell me about your daddy issues.
Oh my God. All right.
I didn't mean like that.
With that.
I meant like an abandonment because he left.
Sure.
Because you weren't enough.
You're a terrible person.
Well, that would be the time to sign off.
Yeah. So I think there's some people that are going to experience some trauma from this last 5 minutes of the scene. Everything went sideways when Diana's computer broke down. It's fine.
Let's blame Diana, really. I mean, not our fault.
Yep. So, Diana, anything else that you want to add to the story, to the show? Anything you want to leave the people with?
I don't even remember what we talked about, like pre-production.
You're fine. Ooh. So we talked about grandma blaming herself, her standing up and how hard that is for the granddaughter, for her rights, her boundaries. We talked about that. We talked about loving people, moving forward. We talked about the trauma response already and grief and how that shows up for different people. You brought that up. We talked about pressures. We talked about perfection. We talked about survival. Technically, one thing on here I had, she's so loving, right, with her 3 children, and she's protecting them. And then she ends up becoming like this villain that she doesn't even know over time. She just slowly morphs into that. And I think that's pretty interesting. I feel like many of us could go into that. I think many parents do that. They want to protect their children, so they do a lot of stuff at all costs, and then some of it's maybe not what the kid wants or not what the kid needed. She became the oppressor in that family. There was something that you said that you starred, and I cannot read my handwriting.
I mean, I think I remember it.
Loving heart.
Again, just for anybody who's watching and just from a trauma-informed perspective, trauma is real. It's a thing. It manifests itself. We all react in different ways. Intergenerational trauma is a thing. So, whether you are a therapist or a social worker or a helping professional or even just a person who lives and breathes in this world and interacts with other people, we all sometimes have some preconceived notions about people and how they behave, and just know that you don't know what that person has been through. You don't know what that person's family has been through. So just try to have a little grace and understanding and be informed.
Thank you for that. I wish a lot of people had that knowledge when they were looking at me and judging me when I was younger. Because maybe I wouldn't have felt so shitty. Maybe I wouldn't have thought that I didn't have a gift. I don't really think I thought I was a good person until 2017 or 18, when one of my good friends in Detroit got married. I thought I was a shitty person probably until then. When at his wedding, the ma goes, "Thank you for protecting my son." And I just lose my shit and start crying in front of all these men. I was like, I'm a good person. Okay. That's kind of cool. I protected this dude. I thought I was the reason why people always said I was the bad influence growing up. That I was the bad person, that I was the thug or the dude drinking or doing drugs. I'm like, man, Colin come over the house just eating and working. Like, we're not doing anything crazy. But there was a lot of negative conceptions about me growing up in my family. And I feel like some of that was racial as well. But never from Colin's ma. She didn't give a shit. She knew I treated her son well, and she would feed me like I was her own. It was a good woman.
Seems like a cool lady.
She's cool shit. She don't say much. She gets that, Colin.
Well,
right? Yeah.
Well, someone had to not say anything because there's no way. It's just out of nowhere. It's just.
Yep, both of them don't say much, but she was good people, man. And I just, if people would know that, be more patient, be more kind, man. And nowadays, shit's crazy in America. I sent Spence an article. I'm not going to talk about that article, about an incident that happened on campus. And people are just getting hurting themselves, hurting other people, and there's gun violence. Just be very cautious. Be very cautious. You don't know what someone's going through. I'm not telling you to let your boundaries get run over. Just don't get involved in stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just someone says something sideways to you in the supermarket, live to die another day. They treat you shitty at the checkout, or they bump into you and they don't say sorry. Live to die another day, man, because you don't know what they're going through. Especially for those white body individuals watching this. I'm not telling you to change your behaviors just around people of color, but know that most likely your internal bias, your inherent bias, you'll see folks like me as more aggressive, more dangerous. Chill, right? Be more trauma informed. Chill. Check some of your biases. You're not in danger. I can see some people, I'm in danger in this place. Calm down. If you're in a dangerous place, then yeah. But if you're just walking around campus and you see me, you get scared, chill.
You just have a knife and you're just like, chill, bro. It's all good.
I got a knife in my bag too. You know what I'm saying?
It takes about 10 stabbings to really get to you. So don't just chill the fuck out, man.
I got the pinchers too from the crab. I just watched Avatar. I don't know why they made some of the submarines crabs. That's a different story for a different day.
Submarines crabs.
The submarines are crabs?
They made some of the submarines little crabs on the new Avatar.
I'll have to watch it again because I didn't notice that.
Yeah, some of the little submarines that go into the ground, they're crabs.
They're crabs?
They look like crabs.
Crab, and it's just like a boat. It's a crab. It's a crab.
I'm like, this is too punny. Why did they do this?
Okay. Here's where I pat your head and say, "You're okay. You're okay. Yeah,
I'm
sure.
done.
Yeah, it's a crap. It's definitely crap. Yeah.
You tell that to your grandkids later. There was a movie, Avatar.
Sure,
The submarines were crap. They're like, okay, settle down, Grandpa.
Yeah, blue people. Okay, sure there were.
Funny thing,
were crap.
I was in therapy yesterday, and I tell the client, I said, I was watching Avatar at work, and they said, Avatar, the anime or the blue people? And I said, the blue people.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
I was like, you racist as shit. You can't say that.
Just blue people?
What you mean, you people?
Aren't they like a Nami or some shit?
I don't know.
Navi.
Navi. Yeah. There you go. Navi. Yeah.
She called them blue people.
Hey, don't be using the I like that, bro.
Yeah. Go by their
That's
ethnicity,
a hard I. Calm
not
down,
their race. Bro. Yes. I can't wait to talk about Avatar. Because one of the daughters is 100% neurodivergent, and I can't wait to talk about her coming soon.
That's right.
It's going to be really fun.
Yes.
All right, Spence, any last words and then take us away?
Nope, we're good. Thank you to all of the people who sent questions in. We really appreciate you.
Everyone.
Robert
thank
D.
you.
My boy.
Robert D.
Danny D.
Danny D.
It's all just Robert De Niro, Danny DeVito. That's all it was. Yeah, they were all just coming in with the clutch questions. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Dr. Diana, for coming on to the show.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Please go check out Bubs Naturals, our sponsor for the show. Use our code DSP20 to get 20% off your order. Also, look at our merch. We got tons of it. So
we got sweaters.
Go buy some.
Yeah, we even have backpacks.
In the summer, so that's good. Good job with that one. With that on, idiot.
What do you want me to put up there? Sports bras? I don't understand.
A shirt. How about that?
Okay.
You jackass.
My girdle?
Yeah. Get your triple XL girdles today. Did you know we made them? We do. Suck it in, honey. That's what we say.
Yeah.
All right. And go check out our Google Doc with tons of information, sheets, apps, all the things that you can use, and then leave a tip for us. Also follow us, because don't be that person. Don't be that person.
Sprinkle
don't like 50 posts and not follow us. Like, you like the stuff. Just follow.
Yeah.
I don't understand. We're growing in followers, so it's okay for you to be like, oh, I follow that podcast. So
yeah, I know. It's not like we got like 5 followers. We're going to be at 10,000 here in like a few days.
Jackasses. That's probably why I don't follow us. I just call them pieces of shit. I don't care.
We'll follow that.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm Spencer. That's Nas. Different Spectrums Podcast.
Peace.
Bye.
Much love, people.